Hello, everybody. Going live on the YouTube channel here, giving it a minute so I can see and I can start getting in the chat and seeing your questions. I know you're there and you can see me. So obviously there are a lot of things going on. Let me tweet my stuff out as well. The COVID testing is causing us some issues, or the COVID situation certainly. And we'll just start out by noting the obvious here. The Tennessee Titans and Pittsburgh Steelers have been moved. And here, I think I can see that we're going live. Can't get in the chat yet, so if you're asking questions, give me a minute to get there. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, Tennessee Titans moved to Week 7. They were initially postponed until Monday or Tuesday. I'm saying this because we're going to have a familiar word on this in a moment. But ultimately, there were continuing positive tests for the Titans. And I am live now, so let me get in the chat. So there were continuing positive tests for the Titans. And so they postponed the game. So they moved it out to Week 7. That means the Baltimore Ravens bye week is going to move from Week 8 to Week 7, and then they'll play the Steelers. Or the schedule will work out. I don't want to get too deep in the woods here and confuse myself any more than I'm already confused. But I point that out because it's interesting to see that the New England Patriots Kansas City Chiefs game scheduled for Sunday afternoon is now postponed until Monday or Tuesday due to a positive COVID test for Cam Newton, who will not play this week even if the game is played, right? Because he's on the COVID reserve list. He'll have to go into isolation, make it through the further testing. Also, Chiefs had their practice squad quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu, was positive as well. It's kind of a coincidental thing, obviously, but the concern is, do the Patriots now have subsequent testing? As we're kind of all learning a little bit, these tests take some time to get positive. The virus incubates a little bit, and then the tests become positive. So has Cam been spreading this around among teammates, and they just aren't testing positive yet? We don't know. We do know none of them tested positive early today. So they're just waiting this one out, and we'll take a kind of a wait-and-see approach. I hope you can, as we come in and start the chat, go ahead and ask your questions. I'm sure there will be many of them. I will do the best I can to work through all these things. We have a lot of injury issues, too, as usual. But with the Steelers and Titans moved to Week 7, the possibility of not having your Patriots or Chiefs, it's kind of hard to count on those guys, not knowing for sure if they're going to play, especially if they move it out to Tuesday, then you get stuck not having players. So obviously the ideal situation is you put in reserves now, and you get it out of the way, and you get it taken care of. And maybe as we gain more clarity through tomorrow's kickoffs, you can make some of the adjustments that clarity gives us if we get it. My guess is the clarity is not going to work in our favor if we want to play those players on those teams. And look, it's Pat Mahomes, it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There's a big list. So, for the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. For the Patriots, you want to play Cam Newton, you can't play him for sure. So that makes that one an easy one. But so we'll kind of work through some of these situations. We'll see. Joe Mixon also added to the injury report today. That adds a layer of difficulty to that game. Multiple issues in the Monday night game. Devonta Adams will be taken out to a true game time decision, and we'll see if he makes it on the field. Seems like he will. Same with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. Both of them are questionable. Russell Gage taken off the injury report just a short time ago. Michael Thomas ruled out, so we have a little clarity there. The Saints have ruled out like 6 guys already. So, as we talk about these COVID issues, and teams missing time, just keep in mind this is it's not impossible for teams not having COVID issues. Like the Saints, 6 players ruled out. The Eagles have a number of players ruled out as well. So we'll figure this out. J.J. Johns, I appreciate you coming here. Rivers, Minshew, or Fitzmagic? I'd be playing Fitzmagic. Seattle's defense is giving up production at a historic pace. It's like 1,200 yards passing so far. They haven't stopped anybody. So, and Fitzpatrick can play pretty damn well on occasion. I know it's not a constant thing, but I would go with that. I wonder if the Jaguars aren't going to have a lot of success running against Cincinnati, that soft middle other teams have. So that's probably why I'd lean that way. I have a question from Periscope as well. Higbee or Ally Cox? I'm going to play Higbee. I wish he was getting more of the workload there. It hasn't been what we saw down the stretch last year. I'd also argue you probably shouldn't expect what we saw down the stretch. On occasion, I think it will happen, but expecting that every single week seems like a reach. Solid production, a good floor. It's a pretty good team in general, and a good matchup too. So I'd be going that way. Ally Cox, I don't have anything against him. Bears are reasonably tough against tight ends, but more than that, Jack Doyle is there, and they elevated Trey Burton from the practice squad. So I'm not sure that Burton has a role this week, but it just seems like a little bit diluted. I know Gerald Everett's there in Los Angeles as well, but I'm going to lean Higbee in this one. And I like Ally Cox. I just got a chance to talk to him last week. He seems like a very nice man and very intent on getting this done. Let's see. Jay Condrick from Periscope picked up Zacchaeus in case Tyreek Hill is out since he was available on Monday night. I'd probably just start John Brown. I think it looks like all the other receiving weapons are going to be there. It looks like Julio, listed as questionable. So I'd probably just, go ahead and start John Brown. He was taken off the injury report. I think this Las Vegas team, can be had. So that's probably, and this just in, Josh Allen playing extremely well. In case you're just new to this, I'm Bob Harris. I work at footballdiehards.com. You can hear me on Sirius Fantasy Sports Radio 6 days a week, the Football Diehards Show, Fantasy Dirt Show. Saturday nights, you can hear a simulcast on NFL Radio of the Football Diehards, and on the Fantasy Channel, we'll take your calls. Be a great show tonight. Marcus Grant from NFL.com is our guest. So Mike Dempsey and myself. You can also hear me on the pregame show. Tons of content up on the Football Diehards website. If you haven't been there, go to footballdiehards.com/free trial. Take a test drive. When you decide that you must have it, use the promo code DIEHARDS on the order page to get a 15% discount. And also, while you're here on the YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And make sure you don't miss anything that we do here, because we have tons of great stuff. Prop Bet Show with Jen Ryan every week. John Law, if you're into the college football, fantasy football, does his show there as well every Wednesday. Also, we have, or every Thursday, we have our Wednesday night DFS show with Kyle Dvorak and Jason Brady. Sunday mornings, we have our pregame show with Emil Kadlik and Jason Brady. Friday night, we have, Lob is doing the DFS, right, Emil? Yes, I believe that's correct. So we can, we got a lot going on. Go check the site. Links to everything is there and available to you. Thank you, Troy. It's very kind of you, being that I don't feel very good because it's been hectic. It's been a crazy week, and we should all get used to some of this craziness, right? It's to be expected. We knew these times were going to be tough. I've talked a lot about how the NFL has been dealing with this, what I think in a pretty good manner, right? They've got plans in place. They seem to have protocols. Are we finding out maybe there's a hole in the protocols in terms of, like, so you get a positive, people test negative before, even though they're incubating the virus, and maybe they need to work on that. There's a lot of talk. Maybe we need to get players in a bubble. It seems like a single bubble, like we've seen the NBA use, is probably unrealistic, given you've got a couple thousand players, you've got an equal number, if not more, support staff, etc. So might be tough. But multiple bubbles or multiple hotels, just lock down the teams in hotels. That doesn't seem unreasonable, and that's something the Players Association would have to agree to. Pro Football Talk has reported the league is open to that idea. They may have to get there. We'll see. Flex Greg Ward, T. Higgins, or T.J. Hawkinson's. I like all those guys. Greg Ward's going to get a ton of, he did last week. I would expect him to continue to get a ton of work. T. Higgins, I think, is a great scoring threat, but there's a lot of mouths to feed there, so maybe that's part of this equation. T.J. Hawkinson, I think, has a great matchup this week against the Saints, especially with their defense depleted by injuries, 4 starters out, including both their starting cornerbacks, by the way. So if you're Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, or any components of that passing attack, doesn't seem like a bad play. I'm probably leaning a slight lean to Hawkinson, and maybe it depends on what you need, Zachary. If you need a home run swing, I think T. Higgins is a home run threat, a touchdown scoring threat, given the volume of throws they're making and kind of the connection we saw certainly last week with Joe Burrow. And if you just want a super high floor, I think, Ward in a PPR is going to get a ton of targets. They have 2 healthy receivers right there. They did promote some guys from the practice squad today, but there is no Deshaun Jackson. There's no Alshon Jeffrey. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is doubtful, so wouldn't expect him to play. And that kind of leaves them with Ward and John Hightower as the only options. They do have the tight end, so they'll target Zach Ertz heavily. But Richard Rodgers, I don't know that he's the Dallas Goedert level guy. So, that's kind of how I played out. I do love the Hawkinson matchup. I think the targets have been relatively even too. I think, hasn't hit double digits, but between 5 and 10, 7, 9, somewhere in that range most games. So that's viable. Hope that helps out a little bit. I could be more definitive. If you just want a single answer, I could give you one. Who would I play? But honestly, it would depend on what I need. Zach Moss or Joshua Kelly. I'd probably play Joshua Kelly in this one. Hope for the best. Moss is still questionable. I thought Singletary fared pretty well. Bob Dickens, last week it's against Las Vegas. Maybe I want to give him a week back. Kelly has, not looked as good. Justin Jackson will be back this week, so that's a little bit of a concern, but I'd probably still lean Kelly in this case until I know Moss is healthy. At least I know Kelly's healthy. Jay Mileto, 45 from the Periscope. T.Y. Hilton or Robbie Anderson. I'm going to go Hilton in this one. I mean, Anderson's been great or been fine. I don't want to overplay my hand here. I'm pretty. It's probably pretty close on this one. Probably closer than it should be. For me, because I'm heavily invested in Anderson. Let me just look at some of the numbers here and see what some of the targets were. We rank them 27 and 28 this week with Hilton slightly ahead. So that's probably the direction I'm going. I realize it hasn't been great, but that's the way I'd go as well. Steve Lindor, half point PPR. DJ Chark, Marquise Brown, CJ Riz, Calvin Ridley. I would sit Brown in this case. Not that I'm down on him. I mean, I know it's been a slow start for him a little bit, and Lamar Jackson is more about the matchups for Chark, and I think Ridley's role in the offense is great. Now, if you're concerned that Ridley is questionable status, I do think he's going to play. So there's that. If that's a concern for you at all, I think Brown is a fine play. And so if you're trying to avoid taking the 0 or the potential 0, and you don't have a pivot on Monday night, that's totally defensible to play Chark and Brown. Chark came off the injury report today, or Friday. It sounds like he maybe had like a bruised kidney more than like it's not a rib injury or anything that they kept him out. So he seems, now that he's healed, seems like he's probably good to go. All right. I'm waiting for the official injury designation for Devonta Adams. Matt LaFleur has already said it's going to be a game time decision. So they kind of did that last week, though, even though he was listed as doubtful. They took him to New Orleans. Obviously, with Allen Lazard out, you would like to think that, this passing attack could make a little hay against Atlanta, and you'd love to see Adams be a part of that. Aaron Rodgers has been playing lights out. Can Marquez Valdez-Scantling, come to the forefront here with Lazard out like Lazard did? I mean, Lazard, to his credit, stepped up when it mattered most. And the injury that he's dealing with now, the core muscle surgery that he had. So, Steve, you didn't really miss it. I mean, I would, in a vacuum, I would play Chark and Ridley, but you're not in a vacuum. Ridley is listed as questionable. If you're concerned that he's not going to play, then go ahead and play Brown. I think he's a fine play. If you don't have a pivot and you're concerned about the possibility of taking a 0 if Ridley's a late-minute scratch because he's listed as questionable. I'm pretty confident that he's going to play, and they're going to need to score a lot of points, so I'd probably go that way. But I'm just trying to make the point. Brown is a viable play. I'm not dialing back on him because he's off to a slow start or Lamar Jackson had a bad game. I'd be fine playing him if I was concerned about Ridley. Rick, how you doing, Rick? PPR flex, Robert Tonyan, Kerryon Johnson, or Justin Watson? I'd probably go Tonyan in this case. He seems to have come on strong enough. And I do think, Justin Watson is a name people should have on their radar, and this is a very tough week, as we all know, right? So I do think that he's a guy that should be on your radar for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You've got no Chris Godwin. Scotty Miller seems like he'll try to play. He's listed as questionable, but he's not healthy, right? He's got hip and groin issues. He was limited in practice all week, so he's a speed guy. So maybe Justin Watson gets a little more run in that spot opposite of Mike Evans. So Kerryon Johnson, I think at this point is pretty much unplayable. So I'd rank him Tonyan, Watson, and Johnson at this point. Hollywood or A.J. Green. I'd probably still play A.J. Green at this point, just the volume of the passing attack. Steve Fox. They throw the ball a hell of a lot. And with Joe Mixon listed as questionable, maybe they have to throw even more. Who knows? A little worried about this whole Mixon thing. He's off to a slow enough start as it is. Now he turns up as questionable on the injury report on Saturday. That's a concern. So yeah, that's probably the direction I would go. I would go Green, not against Hollywood Brown at any point in time. He's a huge big play threat. The Washington football team, not the most daunting defense, especially given the injuries. No Chase Young this week. Matt Ioannidis, who's been a terror in the pass rush department, will not be playing. He's done for the season. So there are things to like there for Hollywood, and I suspect there will be a bounce-back game for Lamar. But I'm just leaning I'm leaning Green based on the volume. I'd like him to do more with it. I'd like him to do like T. Higgin-ish things with it. Okay, Hector. 5.5 point PPR, Hayden Hurst, Antonio Gibson, or Joshua Kelly. Need one. Would you drop any of these for Swift? I don't know that I would drop any of them for Swift. It just seems like Swift's role right now. Look, so the Detroit, Minnesota, Adrian Peterson, that team's still stuck in my head. Imagine that. I must be old. Adrian Peterson seems to have taken the lead role in that backfield and has kind of relegated Swift to just a receiving role. I think at some point maybe Swift can come on. Adrian Peterson is very old, not like Bob Harris old, but pretty old. And you wonder if he can keep up the 22 carry a game pace. I find that hard to believe. But it seems in recent years, he'll have those games where he handles a big workload, and then he'll kind of have a dud, and then he'll come back and have a big workload game. So I don't know if I drop any of those guys for Swift, but I do think Swift down the stretch is maybe a good play. Antonio Gibson has a clear path to workload. I'm still all in on Josh Kelly, even though he's had kind of a bit of a downturn that maybe started with a fumble against Carolina. And Justin Jackson's back. I want to hold on to him at least a week and see what they do with Justin Jackson before I get too excited. In this case, though, I would probably start Hurst in this game. And Gibson, I need to see a little more. It's a very tough matchup for the Washington football team. Okay, got a Periscope question. Connor Henry owner. Ouch. Need two from these. Hines, Chase Edmonds, Zach Moss. I'm going to play Hines and Moss. If Moss is inactive, I would switch to Chase Edmonds. And I know, these are tough. Those are not high-end plays, and so, but I understand where you're at, and that's how I suss it out there. I mean, the only reason I'd like to play Zach Moss because he seems to have a little bit more of a role than Edmonds when he's healthy. I don't know how healthy he is. Maybe the inactive announcement may make this decision for you. But he did practice Moss on a limited basis all week after missing last week's game. So I'm a little encouraged by that. So good luck with this, man. This is going to be a tough week for all of us. Again, I hope you're jumping in with all your questions here. Or, if you're jumping in on the Periscope feed, I am getting fed some of those questions. Not all of them. I'm not seeing them directly, so I'm not ignoring you if that's what you're wondering. Why isn't he answering my damn questions? Because I don't see them. I'm in the YouTube chat, and I'm answering those questions pretty much immediately. So if you want to go to the Football Diehards YouTube channel and subscribe, that would be great. And you'll get your questions answered more immediately there. But when I don't have any, I go to the Periscope feed, and I get some of those as well. Steve Fox needs one from Renfro, Gage, Cooks, Justin Jefferson, in a full PPR. Wow. I think this is kind of a Renfro week, right? They have no Henry Ruggs III. They have no Brian Edwards. I don't know that Zay Jones or Nelson Aguilar. I'm guessing Tre'Davious White will be on Nelson Aguilar. He's a speedier threat, but I don't know that either of those guys are going to be great guns downfield. So I'm trying to get Renfro into the mix. I think Gage, though, is healthy. So that seems like a good play too. Brandon Cooks, also a great matchup. Jefferson, I'd like to see it another week. Look at this. T.Y. Hilton is like one of my least favorite options on this list. Imagine that. I think the smart play would probably be, Gage or Cooks in this one. Renfro, I think, though, is a really solid floor play. So, if I'm picking one, it's probably Gage here. If I'm ranking them, honestly, Gage, Renfro, Cooks, T.Y., and Jefferson. Mixon, Montgomery, or James Robinson. I'm probably playing Robinson out of this bunch. Mixon, I hope that he comes on at some point and gets something going. He has not got it going yet. I think if you drafted him, you should not give up. You should take some solace in the fact that he didn't start playing until week 9 last year. The difference, obviously, though, between this year and last year was he was the only weapon in the offense. So they kept going to him no matter what the game script or where they were at on, in terms of winning or losing. This year they have Joe Burrow, and they're happy to let him throw the ball 60 times in a game if they have to. Robinson's been rocking, man. And he's going against Cincinnati, and they're a horrible defense. Got nothing against Montgomery, just playing the matchup and the guy that with pretty much the sole workload here. Let's see. Greg Ward versus Antonio Gibson in PPR. I'm probably leaning Ward. It's a tough matchup for the Washington football team going against Baltimore this week. And I'm waiting for that role to kind of solidify for Antonio Gibson. Grab a couple of the Periscope questions here while I have a second. T. Hill, CEH, A. Brown. You got a lot of guys on the bench. Yes, it is okay to weep openly. Absolutely in that case. In fact, I'll weep for you. I will pour out a little. Pouring out. Can't see me, but I am. 1 point PPR, 2 point per tackle. Per T tackle. Okay, I guess is that tackle? Zach Moss, Keelan Cole, Zach Pascal, Troy Hill. I'm probably playing Keelan Cole and Zach Pascal. Is that like you could have a flex? I guess if you could have a flex, over from the other position. I don't know that. I might need a little more explanation there. But Hill is viable if you're getting 2 points per tackle, just not high end. I'm not sure I understood how that works. Okay, sorry. I was confused by the question. This happens a lot. I'm easily confused. You'll be surprised to learn. Getting back to the YouTube questions. Let's see. Okay, super PPR flex. Laviska Shenault, Jeffrey Wilson, or Hayden Hurst. I'm probably going Wilson there. It's a real, I just think the the role has been good enough. The scoring values there. Look, we all love Laviska Shenault. I'd like to see him, become better integrated in the offense, and I think that'll come in time. And Hayden Hurst is, in a PPR. I don't think you ever worry about him, but there are 3 guys that are getting targets ahead of him at least right now. So I'm probably going Wilson in this case, at least until Mostert comes back. In a super flex, would I trade Drew Brees and Deonte Johnson for Camara? Sure would. As long as I had enough quarterbacks to fill my starting lineup. Bob Dickens, don't leave yourself short. Steve, James White owner, I picked up Gio. Would you play Gio if Mixon was out or stick with White? I'd play Gio either way, probably. I don't know that the Patriots are going to play their game. And any news on Mixon, other than the fact that he turned up as questionable today? No, there's been nothing. And that's a concern, right? Anytime a guy shows up on the injury report on Saturday, you got to be a little bit worried. Gibson or Gaskins, half-point PPR. I'm going to go Gaskins. Let me just take a look. I feel like that's pretty close. But, look, I just don't like the matchup against the Baltimore Ravens for the Washington football team. It's just not good. I'm going to go that way. Look, Gaskins has not been great, but he's been on the field a hell of a lot. Kenyon Drake or Darrell Henderson this week, man, I would have a hard time swaying Impala, sitting any running back against the Carolina defense, right? If I was going to do that, Darrell Henderson against the Giants would be one of those matchups I would do it for. I still rank Drake higher. Maybe if you're taking into account the fact that, Russell Wilson is the ultimate vulture and has been crushing Kenyon Drake's touchdown value, I would not disagree with you. And if you wanted to make one more run with Darrell Henderson, I wouldn't. But if you're asking me what I would do, it would be Drake over Henderson. And I love Henderson, heavily invested. Jennifer Sains, hi Jennifer. Half-point PPR, thoughts about starting Ridley, DJ Moore, Eckler. It's a long list. I'm worried that Carson won't be 100% as well, so maybe that decision will be made for you in advance of kickoff. It's entirely possible. I know Pete Carroll is very optimistic, it seems, about Chris Carson. Also, Pete Carroll is often very optimistic. The good news is Carlos Hyde was also questionable or has a shoulder issue, so that's a bit of a concern, although Carroll suggested that was just to keep him healthy. Ridley, Moore, Eckler. I'm happy starting all the guys you're starting. And I think, if you have Carson, and you're concerned about the health, I mean, all those are great options. And so I would probably stick with where you're at. I think your instincts are correct. John Ortiz, Buffalo or LA Chargers defense. I'm probably playing Buffalo's defense. Look, I'm not afraid to pick on Tom Brady. I generally, but I generally tend to pick on quarterbacks and defense and look for opportunities to make plays. There are some receivers that Derek Carr hasn't worked with as much that'll be starting for him. I think that might work in Buffalo's favor as well, so probably that direction. Deshaun Watson or Joe Burrow for this week? That's a very tough question, Swang and Paula. And Marquise Brown and Jonnu Smith for the rest of the season. I'm going to stick with Marquise Brown for the rest of the season. I view him as a breakout player. I don't think Jonnu Smith is a bad play, and I think if you went that direction, I would not think you were crazy. I just think the upside of Marquise Brown when the Ravens start hitting on all cylinders is massive. The targets seem to be distilled to a pretty narrow band. Although you would make that argument in Tennessee, I realize. But at some point, A.J. Brown will be back. Maybe Corey Davis has established himself, and so just leaning Brown. Steve, PPR if you could. Rank Cobb, Taquan Smith, Justin Watson, Scotty Miller. Well, I'd probably go Smith, Cobb, Watson. And, I mean, Miller would be at the top of the list if he was healthy. And so that's part of that is your risk tolerance, Steve. I don't know. Are you okay playing guys that are questionable, and are you worried about them going out in game? Some of these decisions are decisions you have to make. So in a vacuum, if everyone was healthy, it would be Miller, Cobb, Smith. Miller, Smith, Cobb, Watson. We don't live in a vacuum. I have some Periscope questions. Multiple flex. Yeah. So, I mean, look, if I knew for sure Zach Moss was playing, and you'll know that, it's an early afternoon kickoff, or is it a late afternoon? I should double check that before I sound really stupid. I guess it's a late afternoon kickoff. So, if that ties your hands a little bit, you've got 2 late afternoon games, so you could pivot from Moss to Hill if you wanted. So maybe that would be the approach I would take. I'm just not eager to play Keelan Cole or Zach Pascal, although I think Pascal, now that Pittman's gone, is going to have some, at least a reasonable PPR floor. So that might be the direction I go. I'd want to play Moss on this list. And so maybe I'd play one of those receivers. I guess they're all late afternoon kickoffs except Cole. So I just probably X Cole out of the list, and maybe the decision gets made for you if Moss is inactive. If Moss is active, I'm playing him. I'm probably playing Pascal over Hill. Not really sure what you're getting from him in 2-point per tackle leagues as a cornerback, but maybe if that, check your average scoring. If it's if it's a reasonable level, maybe that's the way to go. Brian Larkin, do I see a greater role for Pittsburgh running back McFarland in the near future? Seems to be gaining a little traction, right? Kind of wasn't sure that he was. I know a lot of the local observers haven't been that keen on him. Clearly the coaching staff is, and he seems to have gained a little run over Snell, right? Who was the guy that we thought just not too long ago was going to be taking over for James Conner. It's funny how fast things change. So yeah, I do think the role is coming. I think we're starting to see it already. I don't know if it's going to be a viable week-to-week role, but more of a role is coming. Jennifer, rest of season, Fitzpatrick or Herbert half-point PPR? Well, I'm not 100% sure either of them keeps their job the rest of the season. If I was betting, I'd say Herbert is more likely to keep his job the rest of the season, because why not? I mean, you want to get the young quarterback in. He's been serviceable. He's thrown for a lot of yards. I don't think he's the reason, he's keeping the charge for winning. Fitzpatrick, as long as he keeps playing great, is going to be fine, but I think at some point they want to get Tua in there. I just don't know when it'll be. I think, when is their bye week, Jennifer? Seems like it's in the double digits or close to the double digits. Maybe that's a logical starting point. If I'm betting, I'd probably go with Herbert over the course of the whole season. Any thoughts on Julio and Mixon? Julio, I think, will play. He's worked on a limited basis. Reporting was he looked reasonably good. I know he's listed as questionable. Mixon, I'm totally don't have a good feeling for. What I do know is it's never a good sign when guys are added to the injury report on Saturday who weren't there before Saturday. That's a concern to me. Yeah, Jennifer, that's what I thought. Week 11. I didn't want to say it and sound stupid, but so, I think logically, unless there's an injury or something, a horrible game, I'm guessing Fitzpatrick keeps the role. And look, he's been pretty damn, productive, right? So I like that. But I think my answer is still Herbert. and I know what Anthony Lynn has said about Tyrod Taylor, still being the starter when he's healthy. I don't know when that's going to be, and I don't know why you do that. I mean, Herbert has been really serviceable. Would I drop Akers or Randall Cobb for Devonta Freeman the rest of the season? Nope. Or keep them over him. I would keep, Randall Cobb, Akers, no way. Randall Cobb, I suppose. I don't have high hopes for Devonta Freeman. He was not very good in Atlanta in a pretty good offense. I don't know that he'll be really good for the Giants, especially if they keep splitting. But he may have some games. So maybe the workload alone makes him more valuable than Cobb. I think Cobb's been pretty damn good, though. So unless I was, in a pinch at running back, I probably would not do that. Rick, thoughts on Boston Scott worth holding or looking at other? I'd probably look at other running backs. I think they've decided that Miles Sanders can handle the workload. It's been pretty disappointing what we've seen from Boston Scott. I don't know that he's a true handcuff either, so I don't see a real need to hold on to him. I think McFarland maybe is the guy mentioned in the previous question that is gaining traction. Jennifer, you're welcome. You have Herbert and Brady, so I'll leave Fitz in the waiver wire. All right, seems reasonable. Maybe trade in Brady for Fitz. Sorry, I just... looking at that, thank you. Need a running back, Joshua Kelly, J.K. Dobbins, Malcolm Brown, Devonta Freeman. Boy, this is, pretty impossible call. Guys all with secondary roles or, I don't know that Devonta Freeman even has a secondary role at this point. It was not good last week, first weekend. Maybe it'll get better. I would rank them pretty much in the order you have them. Kelly for right now, and, I say this not knowing what Justin Jackson kind of run he's going to get. This is going to be his first game back. So, I'm a little concerned about him for Joshua Kelly. And Dobbins is just going to be hit or miss. And Malcolm Brown, I think right now, Henderson seems to have taken the lead. I wonder if Malcolm Brown's workload last week, he got plenty of work, but it wasn't the kind of trusted, high-quality work he was getting before, meaning near the goal lines, etc. Maybe the circumstances just didn't allow it, or maybe it was the broken pinky finger he suffered the week before. Maybe they're a little less trusting of him. So I'd probably go in the order you have them. Jamie, I'm on every weekday on Sirius except Wednesday. You can hear me on Football Diehards, weeknights. Football Diehards is on 10 to midnight on Friday and Monday nights. I'm on Fantasy Dirt with Fabiano on Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're on Saturday night on the Fantasy Channel, Dempsey and me on the Fantasy Channel and NFL Radio simulcast for 3 hours from 8 to 11. And if you don't like the times, use the on-demand. But I appreciate the using the website. Fernando, do I think Davante Adams will play, or should I play McLaurin since the Packers game is Monday Night Football? Well, that decision might be made for you too. McLaurin is questionable with a thigh injury. He was added to the injury report on Thursday, and it's a murderous matchup. And I know McLaurin's done better against tough matchups than I expected so far this season. Whether it was Arizona or I think there were other ones where I thought the individual matchup, I guess against Darius Slay, was pretty tough, and he's been fine. The Ravens have 3 cornerbacks, all very tough. So I just wonder if this is going to be a good game for the Washington football team. I would love to play Davante Adams. I think I would wait and see what the reporting is. I don't have the actual, injury status yet, but what I do have is Matt LaFleur said, earlier today, we have 53 hours until kickoff. We're going to give him right up until that time. I've heard previous that Adams' injury was minor. The thing that really surprised me, though, was he was listed as doubtful. Why did they let him fly to New Orleans if he was doubtful? Maybe did he have a chance to play then? So, the smart move would obviously be, to play it safe, go with McLaurin if he's active, even in a tough matchup, and then wait and see. But watch the reporting. Check the main page of the Football Diehards website. I usually have tidbits in advance over the night from tonight and into Sunday morning that we start getting clues about whether some of these guys that are listed as questionable or worse are going to play or not. So I really want to play Adams bad. You can tell, right? And I love Terry McLaurin, but I just think this is a great play against an Atlanta defense that's been horrible. I just like to think, like you, probably would like to think that he's healthy enough to make it through the full game. And I don't know that he is yet. So check the website, footballdiehards.com. If you're not a member, you haven't signed up, go there and use the footballdiehards.com/free trial. And you can look around for a couple days, including tomorrow, and see what you like on game day and the kind of information you're getting and all the other stuff that we have available. Tons of articles, audio, video, rankings, tools. The My Fantasy GM is a great tool you should use to manage your lineup. Saves you a little time, helps you get an edge on the competition. And tons of great DFS content as well. And there I totally, I hope that, a lot of times I don't know if there's a right answer to a lot of these questions, right? So I sit here and I argue for all the various answers and hope you can sort it out. But if you made me pick one, it would be play McLaurin if he's active and hope for the best. Jamie again, 1/2 point, Marquise Brown or McKinnon, also Hurst or Ingram. I'd play McKinnon and Hurst. If Ridley is out, how would you rank these options to flex instead of Ridley? I will wait for that, Jennifer. Swang needs to start 3. Tyler Boyd, Keenan Allen, Robert Woods, CeeDee Lamb, and Justin Jefferson. What if I told you to sit Keenan Allen? What if I told you to sit Robert Woods? You would slap me silly. It's kind of a decision between Lamb and Boyd for me. And I think with the high floor plays that you have in Woods and Allen, maybe I would take the high ceiling play, which seems like it's CeeDee Lamb. You can play Jefferson too if you wanted. I mean, I just think starting out with Woods and Allen gives you such a strong floor, not without some upside, that you can pretty much go the direction you like. I think CeeDee Lamb would be, for me, the direction I would go in this one. And I love Tyler Boyd, and I think he's going to get a ton of work. I just think with those other 2 high floor guys, you can make this happen. S. Mazuka, need 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. Hunter Renfrow, T. Higgins, Darius Slayton, Andy Isabella, or Randall Cobb. I'm probably playing the first 2. Darius Slayton, it's a pretty tough matchup. I'm guessing you'll see a lot of Jalen Ramsey. Andy Isabella was super productive, and yes, we could see maybe if Hopkins and or Kirk are both out, maybe he's going to get a little run. He was super efficient last week, though, right? He was not on the field as much as, say, Keyshawn Johnson. I know he got the touchdowns, but and look, he's a great speed player. But again, I talked to Bob McManaman of the Arizona Republic last night, and that was his complaint. Is this guy's just not on the field enough. Wait till he's on the field more to be a viable fantasy threat. And Cobb, look, it's, again, a great matchup there. I'm going with the first 2. Would not talk you out of Randall Cobb over either of them if you really wanted to. If OBJ has a big game, should I try trading him for someone like Godwin? Yes. Probably so. Like, I think it's going to be hit or miss over the season. This is a great matchup, and hopefully there's a huge shootout that we all want as fantasy owners. So yeah, I would be looking to move him if he has a big game. And Jennifer, that's okay. I knew you would show back up. Hollywood, I got to look and see how many you want of these, though. Oh, I'll just rank them. That's the kind of question I like. I would like Montgomery, Hollywood, Gibson, and Jefferson. Look, I don't want to be disrespectful of Jefferson after a huge game. I just like to see more than one huge game. I mean, receivers not named Adam Thielen have been non-existent in that offense, and as excited as I am, and also, just to be clear, I thought Jefferson coming into the season, he was my pick as the rookie who would be the most impactful all this season, right? So he's just, I'm hoping he turns into that, right? I'd like my narrative to come true. But I'd like to see more. So until I do, that's where I like him. And look, I could, you could talk me into moving him ahead of Gibson, given the matchup, and it's just not been an impressive role, or the role that I wanted for Gibson. Maybe is a better word. So, I think I hope that clears it. I hope that's perfectly muddy. Montgomery, Hollywood, Gibson, Jefferson. I said them like they were one guy. If you wanted Jefferson to get ahead of Gibson, maybe that is the way to go. All right, Fitzpatrick, serviceable sub for Mahomes this week. He is, in fact, I would say as serviceable as you'll find. Go check my DFS 3 and out column at footballdiehards.com. I know it's a DFS column, it's a tournament play, but if you read my thoughts on what Montgomery or what Fitzpatrick's got going, you'll see why I would think he's a serviceable sub. I have one from Periscope. What are my feelings towards Hunter Renfrow? I like him. I want to play him this week. I'm probably in a lot of the questions I've been shading towards him, even though some of the other options have been pretty good, just because I think, it's going to be him and Darren Waller. I don't know what I expect from Nelson Aguilar and Zay Jones, especially given the, just given the direction this offense is going. I mean, it's been, Renfrow has been great and Waller has been great. I think Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards are going to be great players, but they're not going to be on the field this week. And I don't know if Nelson Aguilar is up to Tre'Davious White. I don't know. I don't know if Zay Jones is ready to tear up and make good on this revenge game against his former team. So I want to play Renfrow. I think he's a real solid floor guy. And maybe some of this also, I talk about this a lot, your own roster construction or lineup construction should come into play here as well. You want to have a balance, a mix of upside and high floor players. And maybe you already have a bunch of high floor, maybe volatile players in, or high ceiling players and that are more volatile, and you want a little bit of floor. I think in a case like that, Renfrow is a guy in PPR that you could probably rely on in this game. One more from Periscope before I get back to the YouTubers. One flex, Hunter Henry or Slayton. I'm playing Hunter Henry. I'm not down on Slayton, but I'm pretty high on Jalen Ramsey. And I think there will be, they will see each other a fair amount. Okay, full PPR, Gaseki or Schultz. Running back 2, Kelly or Ingram. I don't want to let my love for Joshua Kelly and my heavy investment, skew me on this one. Probably would play Ingram in this case. He is still the starter. I know it's, it's exciting. I think Kelly has gotten some run. I'd probably go Ingram in this one, and probably would, it'd be a tough decision between those guys and Burkhead, even if Burkhead I knew was playing for sure. Gaseki or Schultz? That's a tough one. I'm going to play Gaseki just because I like the matchup against Seattle. And he's basically playing wide receiver, right? He's running out of the slot a ton, as you would expect. But Schultz, not disrespecting or overlooking what Dalton Schultz has been doing in this offense either. But I'm going Gaseki on that one. And let's see. Green Bay's MVS be the go-to guy tomorrow? I don't know. It'll be Monday anyway. Well, he won't be tomorrow. There you go. It's like a trick question. Brian, can he step up and turn into that Allen Lazard-like play, right? I think that's what we're all hoping for. I think given the matchup, maybe he can, right? I mean, this is a really good matchup. Maybe Devonta Adams isn't full speed. There will be no Allen Lazard, we know for sure. So, I mean, I'd be willing to take a chance on that. I'd also be willing to take a chance that Robert Tonyan is that guy, or Jay Sternberger. I mean, I'd pretty much be willing to roll the dice on all those guys. Malik Turner, probably not as much. Darius Shepard, maybe not as much. But, and some of that will depend on Devonta Adams. I should probably check and see if we have that actual designation. I don't know that we do yet. I've been waiting for it all afternoon. I got the Eagles. I got the Falcons. Devonta Adams. Another Titan goes on the COVID list. Oy, this is going to be a tough one, people. The Bills require activate. So I still don't have the actual status for Adams. So all I have to go with is basically that he's a game time decision. I'd like to know if he's listed as doubtful in a game time decision, because that's what he was essentially last week, right? And I don't think the guy listed as doubtful is probably going to play. But we'll see. So check the website for that, Brian. Sorry, I can't be more definitive, but, on Adam's status, I'm still waiting for it. But I do think, yes, MVS will be a guy on Monday night. Sean, thank you for your kind words, and I love asking, I love your questions. Swang and Power. Roster Jefferson over Marquise Brown, not me. Look, I get it that it's been a slow start. It was also a slow start for Justin Jefferson. It's been one good game. So it was a very good game. I'm not denying that. So, but I'm still sticking with Marquise Brown. Still playing the depth chart a little bit. And if you wanted to make the argument to me that Mark Andrews is the wide receiver 1 on that team, it's not like the worst argument ever. But I'm still playing the wide receiver 1 of a team over the wide receiver 2 for a team, especially a team like until last week, this Minnesota offense, they don't run a ton of plays. Kirk Cousins struggles against pressure. I mean, it seems like all the pieces fell in place last week. And they still lost the game. So, who are the leftover wide receivers of Green Bay? You like in full point PPR? I mean, I think Shepard we've seen a little more of. We've also seen him drop an important pass going back to last year. And if I remember that, I bet Aaron Rodgers does. I don't know if you remember. It was near the goal line. Dropped it. He dropped it. It was picked up by a defender, basically. Or bounced off him and into a defender's hand. It was taken back for a pick six. So, need a flex between Slayton and Antonio Gibson. Oh, man. I don't like the matchup much for Slayton, but I'd probably still play him over Gibson. I'm not a Gibson believer. Maybe it's a blind spot. Everybody tell me, do I have a blind spot? Is my dislike for Gibson. I felt like he was going too high in drafts. And so I don't have any investment in him. So it's like I don't feel like I have a solid desire to play him because I don't have a lot of them, and I don't like to do that to people. But it just seems like the workload has not been great for anyone there, and it's not a great offense. It's not a great quarterback. He hasn't been getting the kind of targets we expected when we drafted him. Hasn't had some, carries near the goal line, so I guess that's worth something. I'd probably go with Slayton and hope for the best, but I don't think the best is coming this week in that matchup, so it's pretty close. Slightly into Slayton for me. Flex, standard scoring, running back, Zach Moss, Chase Edmonds, or Joshua Kelly. I'm going Kelly because I don't know. Zach Moss is a late afternoon kickoff. Both the other ones are early afternoon. Maybe, Zach Moss is questionable, so I think that's a concern. Jennifer, I hope I have a blind spot too. Michael Spears, standard scoring. I think a question is to follow. Yeah, I hope I have a blind spot too, and I hope that offense gets better. Look, it's not been great, right? And I think this team is, hoping Dwayne Haskins, starts to show a little progress. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a move at some point here in the next few weeks if he doesn't. Flex, standard scoring. Okay, so I got that one. Going to the Periscope. Do I try to trade Mixon or hang on to him? You need to hang on to him until he has a good game. Then try to trade him. I just don't know what you're going to, I don't think you're going to get the return you want, CJ. Trying to trade him now. You're selling low. I would at least try and come off a big game, wait for a big game. And even then, I'm so invested in him, I might be going, oh, this was the one I was waiting for. But if you want to trade him, hang on to him until he has, something, turns into something worth trading, or you have something you could sell. Preston Williams or Anthony Miller? I'm going to go Preston Williams in this one, given the matchup. I'm not anti-Anthony Miller. There have been games where he hasn't shown up. With Darnell Mooney, the youngster. I don't know what kind of he seemed to have a little chemistry with Mitchell Trubisky. I don't know that he does with Nick Foles. So, look, I'm not. This is me mostly going with the matchup, right? The Colts are a tough defense in general. So, and the Seattle passing defense, not very tough at all. In fact, very generous. Thought I mentioned 1,200 yards given up so far this season. That's like a historic pace. All right, Michael Spears. Need a sub for Ridley. Who would I choose between Ayuk, Beasley, Renfro, or Ward? I'd probably go with Ward. Is this standards? Is this your standards scoring? Oy, that makes it tough, right? I probably think the volume's going to Ward. Also, I'm probably confident enough that Ridley's going to play that I play him, and I wish I would maybe be enough so that I'd be maybe making a play and seeing if I could find somebody else on that roster that I could sub in, whether it was one of the Packer, guys that we talked about, Malik Turner or Shepard, just for one game. Because I'd really want to play Ridley is so much better than the rest of these guys, to me, especially in a standard scoring. Jamie Shaver. Okay, so Demo Samuel is activated as we expected. News is coming in as we speak. And by the way, if you want to see the news and catch up with everything and you feel like there's a hole in your information window, we know how to fill it. It's footballdiehards.com. Go to footballdiehards.com/free trial. Check everything out. Once you decide you must have it, you can get a 15% discount there by using the promo code DIEHARDS when you make your order. So, yeah, Michael, I almost wonder if I wouldn't want to try and find a Packers receiver role. I don't know if Russell Gage was there. I'd do that too. Over those guys, because I really have a feeling Ridley's going to play. But if you want to play it safe, it would probably be Renfro for me or Ward. I think they're both high floor guys and we'll get plenty of opportunities. I don't know that any of them are really touchdown threats, though. Mixon, Chark, or Hollywood Brown, half-point PPR. Jeremy, if Mixon's playing, I'd probably go in that direction. He's still a feature back, and I would hope for more of a featured workload at some point. I don't know that he'll get it this game. But, Chark and Hollywood Brown as receivers are going to be a little hit or miss. I think I'd go with a guy with the ball in his hands more consistently. Willie, full PPR flex, Jimmy Graham or Slayton. Look, I don't want to chase the Jimmy Graham points, but I do want to chase the Jimmy Graham targets, especially when Jalen Ramsey's involved on the other side. Look, I'm going to, come clean here, and probably a lot of you already know this. I'm heavily invested in Daniel Jones, but I realized it was going to take some time for him to come on. Two things. I mean, there have been some attrition there. His offensive line has not been great. Also, he had a really tough schedule to open the season. And so I expected it to be a slow start, and it is. So I still like him. I still like Daniel Jones. I still like Slayton. I think he's going to be a fine play down the stretch. I just think this series of matchups has been good. Jimmy Graham's been heavily targeted. Seems like Nick Foles was still looking his way as well last week when he took over, so I'm fine with that. Gronk, Cox, or Thomas. Ted, I'm sorry. I'm going to need more information here. I don't really know. Is that roster? I don't know what you mean. PJ Fleck. I have Ridley as my wide receiver 1, Golladay as wide receiver 2, and Robbins as wide receiver 3. I think you're bragging, PJ. Well done. I'm impressed. What about it? Ridley, I think, honestly, that's a... have we reached a point where we've decided Ridley is better than Julio Jones? Oh, rest of season. Sorry, I get a lot of questions. It's hard for me to, decipher some of what I see. You guys don't always write the clearest. No offense. Rest of season, Gronk, Cox, or Thomas. Thank you, J.J. Johns. Maybe you could explain to me who Cox and Thomas are. Second, Chark or T.Y. Hilton, I guess. Man, if you're going to ask me questions, ask them so I can understand them. I can see a lot of words floating in front of me. I don't mean to be mean. Ally Cox, that guy. Ian Thomas, okay. I'd probably stick with Gronk at this point. I mean, he's getting more playing time. Ian Thomas's role seems to be going, off. They're just not using the tight end much. Cox, I think he's been great, but at some point there's going to be 3 tight ends there. So I know there's already 3 in Tampa Bay, but at least one of them has a connection with Tom Brady, and he's playing like 90% of the snaps last week. And I'd probably Chark over to Hilton easily. Oh, is it Logan Thomas or Egan Thomas? That was a very efficient use of time. It'll probably be Julio to have more yards and really having more TDs. I think that's a fair assessment, right? Ridley's kind of been that guy. He's certainly been a scoring threat. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out and where we're drafting them next year, because I know everyone's investing. And it's something that, kind of really became clear this summer, especially as I was drafting. Maybe it was because we didn't have as much information to work with. Because we weren't seeing games and we weren't seeing minute-by-minute practice reports, et cetera, over the whole offseason. But I seem to invest more in the cheaper options. Say there was I love Golladay, but Marvin Jones was really cheap, 8 rounds cheaper. I liked, and so I went with the cheaper option a lot of times. And it wasn't the case with Julio. I was still buying him fairly early. So maybe that'll be solidified next year. Got a few more minutes, you guys. If you'd have some more questions, please get them in. I apologize for not being able to read that. It's just, when you do it in code, it's hard for me. I have like a whole sea of words in front of me. So it'd be helpful if you could take a second to write them out. And don't mean to be rude about it. So there we have it again. If you're just tuning in, I'm sure you already know the changes in the schedule. No Titans-Steelers game this week. It's moved to week 7. Because of those changes, the Ravens will move their bye from week 8 to week 7, and they'll play in week 8. The Patriots and the Chiefs won't be playing tomorrow. Hopefully Monday or Tuesday. I remain skeptical only because we saw with the Titans and the Steelers that their initial move was to say, okay, we're playing Monday or Tuesday, and then they had to move it out a week. And by the way, the Titans are still getting positive tests. So even just as we were having this chat, so this is going to be a sticky wicket going forward. To navigate these waters, especially when one of the players to test positive is quarterback. There's been a lot of talk about this leading up to this situation. The quarterback is in the huddle, talking, touching the ball every single snap, a lot of things that they were concerned about. So we'll see how they handle this. And for now, if you're looking at the Patriots, it seems like Brian Hoyer is the person who will be taking over. And we'll see if Jarrett Stidham gets some run at some point. We don't know how long Cam will be out. We don't, they have given him multiple tests, is what the reporting is. So hopefully he can get through it quickly and make good. I want to encourage everyone to go to Football Diehards website. Again, you'll find all the news and information you need to make all the best lineup decisions, whether it's our rankings. The staff rankings are adjusted and constantly updated to reflect the latest news and information. So you'll be able to look at a guy's name. There'll be a link to the latest information we have available to him. Tons of live video and replays of the live video, including John Lobb's college fantasy football, his DFS. Ask the Scholar his questions. He will answer them. You can also get all our DFS content, including our ownership percentages on the site. Very helpful when you're setting your lineups, especially for me doing the tournaments. In addition, you have Brad Cruz, great high-stakes player, giving you his sit-start recommendations. We have the Sunday edition in now. We have Gary Davenport doing our IDP tip sheet and our shadow nose, so he's reporting on the shadow coverage situations. Kyle Dvorak, of course, doing yeoman's work, whether it's DFS, content, writing, his early week injury reports, or his video work and on the Football Diehards podcast, as well as Justin Lanero, Matthew Sharon, Evan Tarchiano, the waiver wire wizard early in the week is a great way to get things rolling, along with Kyle's injury and free agency report. So I encourage you to check that out, footballdiehards.com/free trial. If you're interested, you can take a tour, check it out, and when you want to buy it, use the promo code DIEHARDS to get a 15% discount. Jamie, would you wait and play Chiefs or Patriots players, or will you sub out if you have a viable option? I'm definitely subbing out. Again, kind of foreshadowed this, but I'm a little bit skeptical that they'll get this game in by Tuesday. And I say that just because we saw it with the Titans Steelers. That was the original plan there. They were moving to Monday, then maybe Tuesday, and then the test kept coming, and one of the issues that people are talking about is that the virus incubates for some period of time. So the people are spreading it, and then they test positive, and so there's a lot of negative tests. Like all the Patriots right now, for example, not named Cam Newton, have tested negative. Right? They tested him again last night and this morning with point of care tests, so they got immediate responses, and also they double checked Cam's. They did 2 retests on him, so. He is definitely positive. So, the question is, do other people within the organization start showing up as positives, whether it's coaches, teammates, etc.? And then do they have to shut this down, kind of like they did the Titans? So I would be playing viable options if I have them. Brian subbed out Mahomes for Stafford. I subbed out Minshew for Mahomes in my Scott Fish Bowl, and it's very upsetting to me. Would I trade Mixon and A.J. Brown for McLaurin and James Robinson in a half-point PPR? I would. Yeah, I mean, look, I like Mixon a lot. A.J. Brown, I think he'll be back when the Titans return, but we don't know that for sure. I think McLaurin has proven to be a super high-end play, and James Robinson, the offensive rookie of the month for September. I don't see his role changing, and so if you've watched him play, he looks really good, very explosive. You dig into the analytics a little bit. He's playing well. I'd probably do this. I know, you invested the draft capital in these guys. I think, the Brown for McLaurin is kind of a wash. Obviously, Mixon has been a huge disappointment. And I'm hoping for better, but the concern in the back of my mind, I said it earlier in the video, is that last year, Mixon, they really worked hard to get him dialed in, get the offense doing the things that would make him successful because he was the only option. This year with Joe Burrow, they have a ton of options. So the notion is Robinson is the guy. And so Raquel Armstead, was not that impressive. He just missed most of camp, right? He's not been around much. And so he didn't really get a chance to establish himself. And one of the reasons, if you listen to the people in Jacksonville, they were comfortable letting Fournette go is what they saw from Robinson. Because even at that point, they didn't see much from Raquel Armstead. So, I don't know if Zigbo is a guy that they have that same feeling about. We'll see when he gets back. I think Robinson has kind of established himself in the role. If you're looking at the matchups involved to fit, given the matchups, there's no way that Fitzpatrick doesn't have the most upside of anyone in football, right? You look at nobody's been more generous than the Seahawks pass defense. It's been literally over 400 yards a week. So, and he has good weapons. He's still Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I realize there's concern. I think Matt Ryan has huge upside every week, but it's a little more challenging, slightly more challenging defensively. There's some better pass rushers. Hey, Eric, that's okay. I can call you Evolved Fit, but I'd rather call you your name. No problem. All right, let's wrap it up. I'll take a few more questions if you got them. Ask me anything. Any lineup questions? Happy to help you out. I know this is a tough week for everybody. This is something we kind of all knew going into the season. I hope your league made some adjustments to your roster configuration that gave you a little more flexibility to stash players or roster lower end bench guys, and that you're able to make some moves necessary. Again, if I was sitting here, I think Ridley will start this week. I don't know for sure Ridley will start this week. He's listed as questionable. The reporting on Friday was that he was still looked, or Thursday was that he still looked a little hobbled on the ankle. I'm guessing he's improved, and I'm guessing he'll play. That's just my hunch though. So be careful. Is Bernard an RB2 without Mixon? I don't know if he's an RB2, but he's got that potential without Mixon. So if Mixon's declared inactive and you have a need for somebody who might be capable of putting up those numbers, yes. And thank you, Eric. I appreciate your kind words. All right, everybody. It's been about an hour. Yeah, definitely Eric in a PPR league. All right, everybody, if you got a couple more, get them in here, and then I'm going to head off and get ready to do the SiriusXM NFL radio and fantasy channel. The football diehards, we're on 3 hours simulcast on both channels, starting at 8 Eastern on until 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back on in the morning with Jeff Manns on the pregame show on Sirius. In the meantime, if you want to hit up the website, you'll get all the latest news and information, check all the rankings. We'll help you sort through. I don't know what the future holds, Timothy Scrum, for Bryce Love. It just hasn't been clicking for him, and it's not like they don't have the need for running back. The question is how much has his knee issue, which obviously was more of an issue than we were led to believe or we were allowed to know, been slowing him. Clearly a talented guy. It's hard to imagine him not being more talented than Peyton Barber. I guess let's say that, because Peyton Barber is serviceable but not high end. So I don't know. I'd expected more of him at this point once the opportunities arose, and he hasn't taken care of it. So not sure if I'm holding on to him in rosters. Malcolm Brown or drop for Jeff Wilson Jr. If it's a 1 week thing, I might go Wilson, but I'd hate to drop Malcolm Brown. But yeah, for right now, yes. Willie Renfro or Isabella. If it's Renfro or Isabella, it's Renfro. I'm not sure if there's a war. Can't think of it. So if there's somebody I'm missing there, let me know. Isabella's is an okay play. Maybe if both Ward, okay. Yeah, I think Ward is a solid PPR flex. He's going to be heavily targeted. He's the only guy Carson Wentz really knows in that downfield receiving core right now. So I'd probably go that way. I love Hunter Renfro. I think he's a solid play, but there are other mouths to feed there. There aren't a lot in Philadelphia right now. And Isabella, great high end, but not getting the workload. And it took me a second, Willie. It's just hard to figure out when I don't have all the information. Apologies for that. All right, everybody, we'll call it a week right now. Tune in next week. Football Diehards YouTube channel. I'll be here at 4 p.m. Eastern Time as usual. Check out all our videos, especially pregame tomorrow. We've got a special edition of the Prop Bet Show with Jen Ryan. Prop Till You Drop. That'll be at 9 a.m. Eastern, and then at 10 a.m. Eastern we'll have the pregame show, DFS talk, etc. with Jason Brady and Emil Cadillac. will be on both of those shows, so check them out. One more for Merrick, because Zach Moss is on the wire. I'm not dropping Josh Kelly in the long term, although I like Zach Moss. That might be a personal kind of preference one. I think they're both kind of similar roles. I think Kelly has a chance to emerge as that kind of Melvin Gordon play there. So there you have it, everybody. Go to the website. Tons of stuff there. Listen to the radio. Watch the videos. We appreciate your time and your interest.